I am thankful for Zoom and WebEx so that I can physically see people, but I miss the touch. I miss the smells. I miss watching your face when you taste something. You're like, wow, this is, really good. Or, whoo, it's a bit too much for me. Whatever that is, that language, the language of love, I guess. So I pray for that day when we can come back to that point.
Welcome to the Zami Nobla National Organization of Black Lesbians on Aging podcast. We are your sound source for Black lesbian herstory. I'm your host, Angela Denise Davis. In August of 2020, Zami Nobla produced a series of Saturday night events as a way of relieving the stress and anxiety so many of us were experiencing with the COVID-19 pandemic. One of those events was a virtual art show, Cocktails, Tea, and Art, where we showcased the work of 4 artists in our community. Today, we will listen to an interview with Lorraine Lane, a mixologist who shares with us the gift of creating a great cocktail and how she came to love bourbon. In addition, she talks about the challenges of operating a restaurant in the midst of this global pandemic. Lorraine is the co-owner, along with her wife, Chef Deborah Van Treese, of Twisted Soul Cookhouse and Pours in Atlanta, Georgia. Twisted Soul is a landmark restaurant in our community. And if it's not on your map, then you need to check them out. They're really more than a restaurant. They're family. I'm very grateful to Lorraine, who carved out a piece of time for us, as she has a very busy schedule commuting from Texas to Georgia. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I enjoyed speaking with her.
My name is Lorraine Lane. I am 52 years old, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
How do you show up in the world?
Arms wide open. I want to embrace every moment that I'm able to. I might not do it right first thing in the morning, but throughout the day, I am always just like eyes wide open, seeing new things. I like it when someone else is driving a car so I can just soak up my surroundings.
We are glad your arms are wide open for this interview with the Zami Nobla podcast. Well, we have been waiting to have this conversation with you, and it seems like everything has been brought to our table during the midst of this pandemic. But we're glad that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to be in conversation with us. You and your wife, Chef Deborah Van Treese, are the owners of Twisted Soul Cookhouse and Pours here in Atlanta, Georgia. And really that restaurant has become a landmark for so many of us in the city. We enjoy community and food and drink, and it's really been a gift. One of the things I would like to talk to you about before we really get into the larger subject of your presentation at our upcoming art show is, how has it been like for you all during the midst of this pandemic, maintaining your restaurant?
When it first hit, I was not at home at the time. And, we were going through it in a distance. And Deborah called one Saturday in the evening, as she always does on her way home, and said, "I'm going to close the doors." And she said, we can't do this anymore. This is getting out of control. I worry about the safety of our staff. We worry about the safety of our customers coming in, and we couldn't define it. We didn't know, were the masks going to help? Were the masks not going to help? There was just so much information out there, and some of it contradictory. So we closed the doors. She closed them. I had not been home. I came home the first part of April, and she said to me, "When you land," I said, "I'm going straight to the restaurant." And she said, "I need you to understand, it's not going to be what you're thinking. I'm used to coming in on a Friday evening, walking in the restaurant, the energy, the people, the bar's going, the music's going, glasses are clinking. And I walked in and she had removed some tables out. There was so much, it looks sterile. That's the word I'm looking for. It looked sterile. There were a lot of Clorox wipes over the place. There was a table with wipes on it. There were gloves everywhere, hand sanitizer. And I just kind of stood there. And I think I internalized everything that I saw. So fear, I'll be honest with you, Angela, fear gripped me. I'm more the practical person. Deborah's the creative mind. If you get that, I'm the practical one. And so I immediately started thinking, are we going to survive this? What bills are coming? How are we going to make payroll? How are we going to pay for the insurance? Rent's coming. How long is this going to last? I'm thinking, can we do this for 30 days and it'll be a wrap, And I was listening to people say, oh, when the summer comes, we're going to be fine for the summer and you really just need to worry about the fall. And so this is April. I'm thinking May is going to get warmer. We're going to be okay. And that didn't happen. We're okay. But it took some growing pains. We had to pivot really quickly to our original concept. And Deborah being Deborah, I was thinking practicality, and Deborah started thinking not only making sure our staff were safe, but how are they going to survive? And so then we started doing industry meals for people. And it's something about giving that just does something for your spirit. And that's where we landed.
I imagine that this was even more difficult for you since your 9-to-5 is located out of state, and you and Deborah have a commuting relationship. You're currently located in Texas, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the challenge of that, the challenge of a global pandemic, I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. And so many restaurants are no longer operating.
Yeah, they didn't survive it. And it's so sad. Restaurant industry people, they are the hardest working people I know. If you've ever worked in a restaurant and you do that as your means of survival, that's a hard job. You really have to love that industry to put the level of commitment required for that. The first thing you said was our commuting relationship. Yeah. We met from a distance. I came home to get married, spent time there. And then I went back to Alabama at the time. And, it's been our thing. But I was never afraid to get on the plane to come home. And every time I do it, I'm real keen and aware. I don't go directly to the restaurant. I have to quarantine for some days at home. And Deborah and I live a quarantine life. She's upstairs, I'm downstairs. And it really is because of my travel back and forth from Texas to Atlanta. And so we're very careful. I don't ride in her car with her. If I do, I'm in the back seat. And that's after I've been home for 2 weeks. Most times I either rent a car or I just don't go anywhere. But we've really had to adjust to this. And, jokingly, I said to her, don't get comfortable. That's not your bedroom. That's our bedroom upstairs. Don't get comfortable with me downstairs in the guest bedroom. And she, laughed and joked. But it has been a challenge.
So many things have shifted during the pandemic. I said earlier that Twisted Soul is really a landmark in Atlanta. You all have been generous with Zaminola as well. We really appreciated the way in which you've supported our events,
Thank
some
you.
of our events. And so we know about just the generous spirit that you all have. And we are so grateful for that and just wish all great things for Twisted Soul.
Thank you.
But for those who don't know about the restaurant, give us a little bit of the backstory of how you all came to be this landmark in Atlanta.
Um, I have to give credit where credit is due. This is Deborah. Um, it's her dream. It's her baby. I am a supporting cast member. She had the vision. We were originally over in Decatur, Georgia, and we had partners at the time off of College Avenue or near College Avenue. And we were Twisted Soul Kitchen and Bar. We dissolved that partnership and we got to keep the Twisted Soul name because that was a salad that Deborah had at her first restaurant, Edible Arts, in East Atlanta some years ago before I knew her. And so we were able to prove that that was an original for us. And so we got to keep that part of the name in the dissolving of that partnership. And it took us a year to find the location that we're in. Deborah found it. I walked in and wondered, oh boy, she's lost it for real. I couldn't see her vision. Remember, I'm practical. I need to see it black and white. Take a picture first. Tell me but she saw it. It used to be a barbecue place. And so we got the spot. It took us a while, but we finally got approved for it. So we got the spot and we put the blood, sweat, and tears in there. Our family, our daughter, Kirsten. We came in, painted, took stuff off the walls. We did the work for it. And Deborah said to me, we're going to open in December. And I was like, well, we don't have a POS system. It won't be here until a particular time. She said, I don't care if you go buy a cash register from Office Depot. We're going to open on December 3rd. And we opened December 4th of 2016. And it has her intent, people say Twisted Soul, soul food, Southern soul food. But for her, Deborah's traveled, all over the country and the world as an international flight attendant with American Airlines. And so she's had the opportunity to hang out with some pretty cool people. And every country has its soul food. And so we try to blend that at Twisted Soul. When we opened, she asked me to design the cocktail menu. And I quickly threw some things on there, old fashioned, cosmopolitan, Pim's Cup #7, just some drinks I'd already had. And she said, no, that's not going to work for me. I need something designed. I need you to think about what you're doing. I need you to create a cocktail menu like I create a dinner menu. I need you to play with flavors. And she gave me an idea. The sweet potato martini was born. And once I grasped what she was saying to me, I began to play around with cocktails and ingredients and flavors. And I'd have to say, I'd be remiss to say this, our daughter, Kirsten, has taken it to a whole new level. She had an article today that's featured in the AJC, Miss Berry's Hot Tea. And it has a little CBD oil in there for those who don't mind. And man, that is a very nice, relaxing cocktail, I tell you. But she's taken it to a whole different level. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to create a space that wasn't exclusive. We wanted, if you like good food, come to Twisted Soul. That's just the bottom line. We didn't want to be a Black restaurant. We didn't want to be a gay restaurant. We wanted to be a restaurant that if you wanted good food, you wanted good service, and that's key for us, come to Twisted Soul. We are real clear that when we mess up with customer service, we don't care how good the food is. You've lost the business. Mm-hmm. So we're always trying to tweak that at Twisted Soul. And we wanted it a place that you felt comfortable to eat and maybe even kick your shoes off a little bit while you're eating. And so I try to be on the floor talking to people, finding out how people are doing when we could do that. Now people sit within their little booths that we've created with plexiglass dividers, but we wanted people to feel safe now. We've lessened the number of people that can come in there, and no bar seats. People have voiced that they have felt really safe coming to Twisted Soul now. So that's a good thing.
You are a mixologist, and you have these creative drinks you have brought to the table, so to speak. And we're excited because on August the 22nd, you're going to premiere the Zami Nobla cocktail at our virtual
Yes.
art show. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I want to first ask you, how did you get started with your love for spirits and mixing them?
Well, I have to give that credit to my grandmother and my great grandmother. There was always this little jug under the sink in the kitchen. And it was either a peach brandy or wine or pear, because we had a pear tree in our backyard. And I would see my grandmother and my great grandmother straining it in this cheesecloth all the time. And then you couldn't do anything with it. And they wouldn't let me taste it. But when I was old enough, my grandmother let me taste a little bit of it. And man, that stuff was good. And I liked the fact that she made it, and she used to say it takes patience. Good wine takes patience. Good wine needs time. It was kind of her little saying. And I was just always enthralled with that. There wasn't a lot of alcohol in my home growing up. There was the wine under the sink. And there was, and I laugh about this now, a bottle of Manischewitz in the refrigerator. That was her thing. Even to the day she died, she had a bottle of Manischewitz wine in the refrigerator. In college, I needed to work to pay for school. I worked at a Howard Johnson's behind the bar. And when I got the job, I took the job as a server, and a bartender didn't show up for shift one night. And the manager said, hey, Lo, get behind the bar. You could figure this out. You could do this. And I had there was a book back there. And at that time, people were really drinking beer, and craft cocktails wasn't a big thing. You needed to know the basics, how to make a martini, how to make an old fashioned. And, other than that, people had it on the rocks or a Tom Collins or something. And I learned the basics. But what I loved about it was the interaction with people. That's that social aspect of it. I mean, even it's been a minute since I've bartended at my own restaurant because the drinks are just so incredible, and I haven't taken the time to learn them. But when I do get back there, I mean, I like to shake it up and make stuff and let people taste it and just have a ball with it and just talk to people. I miss that aspect of our restaurant, being able to have that free conversation.
For those of us who do enjoy adult beverages, and some of us really enjoy them, what's the essential bar for folks if they want to have some items always handy for a drink? What would you say one should always have in stock?
Oh, wow. It's a nice bourbon. And, bourbons are things. Bourbon is a personal choice. Let me just say that. What you may find nice in a bourbon, I might think is a little too harsh, although I doubt that. I'm just using that as an example because I haven't, most bourbons I like. So a bourbon of choice, definitely a vodka of choice, gin, a tequila for sure, and a rum, as your basic alcohols that you have. I think to add your mixtures on there, what you like. We always keep some canned cranberry juice at our home, pineapple juice at our home. I also like, some bitters are great. And I like to play with bitters. Bitters, for an old fashioned, but you can play with bitters and add bitters to, different other drinks. And there's so many out there that if you go to a liquor store, the best, it's like cooking. You got to try something different. A little simple syrup that you can make on your own, keep that in the refrigerator so you can add a little simple to it. So I guess those are some of the basics that I would use for mixtures. Your lemons, your limes, always to add a little spritz to your cocktails. You can't go wrong. Creating a cocktail is what you like to taste.
What's the easiest cocktail that someone could whip up on a Friday night at the end of the week? What would be something that's really easy?
My go-to, even when I go to restaurants and I don't see an extensive cocktail list, my go-to is a Cape Cod. The Cape Cod is cranberry, vodka, and a little bit of a lime. And that's it. The easy drink. If I'm an old-fashioned person, I'm particular about my old-fashions, but at home, I can whip up my own old-fashioned, just a little bitters, a little sugar cube, or a little simple based on what you like, and your bourbon and a cherry. And I like a nice dark Luxardo cherry. Those are always, if you find those, get them, put them in the refrigerator, and just add that little Luxardo cherry with all its little syrup, and you're good to go.
Tasty.
Yeah, I know. Now I want to go around the corner and make me one.
Well, the Cape Cod is that, it sounds to me like a cosmopolitan. But
Well, if you want to make it a cosmopolitan, add a little Cointreau to it and then shake it. That's a cosmopolitan.
Because it's a martini, is that the
Martini,
difference?
that's it. Yeah. Because it's a martini. But true martini drinkers won't consider a cosmopolitan.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's another interesting thing about it. Sometimes you can have similar parts of a drink, but the technique is different, and that makes it different, which to me is very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like a salty dog and a greyhound. The only difference is, it's grapefruit vodka, whether you salt the rim or you don't. Yeah.
Drinking is also interesting too, because some people who don't do it have very certain opinions about it. But I think there's something to be said about understanding what tastes good, as opposed to just drinking for the sake of drinking. And so thinking about a good vodka or good bourbon or good rum, and really making some distinctions between what shelf you want to sit on, so to speak, and how that changes the texture of your drink.
Absolutely. I'm very mindful, and Deborah helps me remain mindful of my alcohol consumption. There are times I get a little buzzed in the head, and I plan on having a good time. August 20th is coming around the corner. I plan on having a good time. I might be in quarantine, but I'm going to have a good time on that birthday. Nice cocktail, or 2 or 3 or 4. But you do have to be mindful and know your limit and take some breaks, from time to time. Give yourself a couple of days or 3 days or a week, or, whatever it is that you need as a marker to say, I am still in control of this.
You are creating the Zami Nobla cocktail, and I don't want to give away just the beauty of what that's going to be, but I'm curious to know how you begin the process of thinking about cocktail creations and how you twerk that. What's the first thing that comes into your mind when you say, I want to create a new drink for the menu, or as with Zami Nobla, I'm going to create this cocktail for a Zami Nobla. What comes into your mind? How do you work that out?
Well, initially, I think about who's asking, the surroundings of it, the history of the relationship in creating a cocktail. So I can use Zami Nobla as an example. So I think about when I first met when I first met Marianne, kind of the history. The thing I know about you is your love for bourbon as well. it was a warm relationship. Where we met, what state were we in, where are they from? So I try to build a story. And from that drink, I can start building ingredients. You know, I won't get into the details, but there's something going to be in there that's Georgia based. Something's going to be in there that's Kansas based. Something's going to be in there that we could talk Mississippi. You know, so and what I know about you and what you like. There's also, because you know we're talking cocktails, but I think my strength, the thing that I'm really working on and studying, are my wines. You know, so one of the things I said, I've had the opportunity to see some of the work of the artists. They're going to be in the art show. And so I fell in love with some wines that I think are going to complement. So hopefully this weekend I'll be done with this recipe and some other notes. But I am going to highlight a couple of wines that I think if you're not a cocktail person and you want to purchase a particular wine, when I looked at the artwork, when I sat back and just kind of let it consume me with some jazz playing in the background, because I don't know why, this is my own, you know, I'm in my head, I'm painting my own picture. This particular wine came to mind. And I will say I'm drinking it right now. You know, well, we're not on video, but I'm drinking my wine right now. Because that's the thing about cocktails for me and wine. There's a history for me. I can talk to you about the first time I had a Long Island iced tea. Now, I quickly have graduated from that, but I can tell you what was going on when I had it. The first time I heard about a sea breeze, or who really taught me about bourbons and introduced me to some major bourbons, you know. So I always try to build a history and a story behind a cocktail.
And what wine are you currently drinking?
I am drinking, and I don't know if this will be, drinking an Orange Swift Chardonnay. It's called Mannequin, but we won't be doing Orange Swift that night. I can tell you that, because what I want, I couldn't find it here in Texas.
It is so apropos that we would have you and talking about wine and spirits, because the first interview that we did for the Zamini Noble podcast, we did it celebrating the podcast with a wonderful bottle of wine that you gave us. You may not remember that, but my first guest was Trey Anthony, and we just enjoyed a bottle of wine, and it was it was wonderful. So that speaks to how wine and spirits, and that piece about history, how a certain drink can take you back. And I have the label. I even saved the label because it was so special. I think it was Luke. Wow. It was Luke or something. It was just, I have to go back and look at it again. But I made sure to soak the bottle, to take the label off, and to press it so that I could keep it, because it was just it was a great bottle of wine. It was a great conversation, and it was our first podcast episode. So
was it a red or white?
It was a red.
Okay. All right.
It was a red, and I'm going to find that label and
nice
and show it to you. And you know, my love for bourbon came out of having a great mint julep in Oxford, Mississippi, and I did not have a real taste for bourbon before that, but it was a bartender who made this great drink, and I loved it. I loved it so very much. It was on the menu at a hotel that I stayed in. And so I think I've been chasing that mint julep. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you know what? I hear the challenge.
Just saying.
I'm on it. I am. And that makes so much sense, because oftentimes when you have this incredible cocktail, you know, as a matter of fact, I can speak, you know, home. There is a drink that Kirsten makes that's on the menu now, that I have tried to make it here in Texas, and I've not been able to capture. It's called a pink matter. And when I go home, she knows, go ahead and just make me a couple of them. I'm going to down those. And it, has a pamplemousse liqueur to it. It's everything. And she's got tarragon in it. I mean, it is an amazing cocktail. And so I understand when you get one, you know how it tasted, and you're trying to find, like if I go someplace else, I'm not going to be able to find that cocktail there. I can ask for, something similar, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to give me the same high that I got the first time you taste something. You're like, wow, what is this? So I completely understand.
And there's also joy of being surprised. Marianne had a wonderful drink in Portland, Oregon, many years ago, and it was a martini that had jalapenos in it. And it was spicy. Nice. It was not too spicy. And we remember that. And unfortunately, it was her drink, so I only had a sip or two of it. But my practice is to make sure that Marianne orders drinks that I like, just in case I need to finish them. So
that's right. I like your practice.
Yes, and it works. I suggested she did this and get this drink, and it was absolutely wonderful. So I think there's really, again, something to be said about enjoying a drink and matching it with a moment, and you can't go beyond that. So I know.
Yeah.
On the 22nd, we're going to have an opportunity to do that, to match a drink with a moment, and just to really enjoy great art and being in community with sisters. And I see you as part of that artistic flow. We're doing visual art, but certainly as I talk about this event, I say that we have 4 artists and you're one of the 4, because that whole idea, even as you expressed it earlier, of designing something, I was immediately thinking of costume design, of really thinking about the drink and how you're thinking about the people and putting all those pieces together. And it really shows that when you're talking about drinking, it's not just about downing alcohol, but when you're with someone who mixes well, it can be a joy.
You're absolutely right. You were talking, I was thinking, I need to make sure that I have my bartender look. You've been places, bartenders, they are bringing their game, whether it's their suspenders, their hats, their bow ties, I've always been enthralled with that. And I love, a good whiskey bar, the hardwood, you and I've been trying to get to the red phone booth, for some time. It's the wood for me anyway, it's the wood, it's the smells, but it's a full package, Prohibition time, all of that. I mean, how incredibly sexy was that time, with cocktails. I mean, it is an art form. So if you're just drinking a throwback, to get a buzz to your head, or you're just really, there's a bar here in Texas called Sidecar. And some of the best old fashions and bourbons and ryes, and it's just amazing. But it's also a place, it's the full package. The ladies and the gentlemen, they have their own unique look going on. The ice is shaking. There's a rhythm to the shaking of the ice. And the sound that I'm talking about. And they're just killing it,
Insert sound effect here. Yes.
Yeah. I am in love with all of that. There's something about that energy that's it's just cool. The only thing that tops it is when Deborah and I are out doing it together, that the two of us, and we're just going in.
Well, there's this great bar in San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco for a year, and for the full year of 2017. And I went to this great...
I was traveling to San Francisco when you were living there,
yes,
but we kept crossing paths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I asked you for a bar recommendation. And I believe this bar I went to may have been one of the ones you recommended. But what was so neat is that they had this bar in the basement, and they had this whole tray of bitters. And I'm not sophisticated in that way to know how to do this and that. But I had a friend with me who was really great about this bitter and putting this and that. And it was really wonderful. But it was just that whole aesthetic of this drink and all these different things she was adding. And so it was this creation that she made right on the spot there. And it was kind of special. And so for folks who are not familiar with bitters and some of the accoutrements of drinking like that, how would you incorporate something like that into your drinking pleasure if you don't know how to use those sorts of things?
Well, you have to just take the plunge. That's the first thing. You can go to most, like a Towers liquor store, a large scale liquor store. And in their bitter sections, they have you can buy the sample packs. So yeah, you can get like 4 or 5 bitter. They're small, but it allows you to play with different things. So for instance, if you are I've lost my train of thought, but let's just say you like chocolate and you want a little chocolate bitters. And so if you're doing we're probably going to restart this because I can't think of the name of the drink with the milk and the vodka and the cream.
White Russian?
Yes. But you want to thank you, a White Russian. And you want to add a little, chocolate bitters to it. Drop you a couple of droppers in it, squirts, poop, poop, and stir it up a little bit. And you'll get the taste. You can, I want more or I don't like. Bitters all drinking requires that you research your palate. There's grapefruit bitters out there. There's cherries. In Atlanta, there's a woman-owned bitters company, 1821, in Croc Street, I think. And we use several of their product at our restaurant. They got a cherry tart. They have a chocolate bitters, and they make them there at their location. And so they can design it for you. You can go in and you can taste it. But they just add an extra flavor, an extra layer to your drink. I think that's a good word, layer. Cocktails are layered, and you can have different, kind of like when people taste wine and they start telling you, it tastes like, crisp apples or berries or fruit. Cocktails have layers as well. When you're designing a craft cocktail, you want to pull out some flavor, some taste, and bitters add another layer for that.
Many years ago, I went to Israel, Palestine, and I came back with this bottle of orange liqueur. And to be honest,
nice.
I bought the bottle. I bought the liqueur basically for the bottle. It was this beautiful blue bottle with a broad base. It was absolutely wonderful. And I had no idea of how to use the liqueur. So this beautiful bottle of liqueur, I basically butchered. But then many years ago, after that, I went to Mexico and brought back some tequila liqueur. And by this time, I had some sense of how to use a liqueur and really enjoyed it. And it was a difference between years of knowing how to really appreciate alcohol and how you can just add a little bit of this to a little bit of that and make something really wonderful. So I am just excited that you have the passion and the love and the artistry for knowing how to make that perfect drink to match it with that perfect moment. It's priceless. It's priceless.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's trial and error. I can work on a drink and write down the recipe, and another bartender could come and say, well, add this. And it just opens it wide open. And I do want to go back that 1821 is owned by a female couple in Atlanta. So just, you're listening to this and you want to give them a try and just go play with them. And they have some amazing bitters. But it is an art form. I am small time compared to some of the other artists out there that do it on a full-time basis and travel and represent brands. I didn't know that this was a career. I didn't think of it in those terms growing up. If you were a bartender, it's kind of what you did until you finished something else.
Mm-hmm.
But bartenders, mixologists, and I people say that about me. I don't know that I'm comfortable with that title, but those who are in it full time, it is an art form, and they do it well and create some amazing cocktails.
Mm. Well, the great thing about Saturday, August 22nd, is that we all are in it for the passion. We're doing our work not necessarily as a profession, but certainly as women who are in love with the medium that we're using, be it alcohol or acrylic or digital design. And that's the exciting part of it. I always ask my guests at the end of our conversation, is there something that I left out or something you think needs to be said that our listening audience would appreciate?
Not that you left it out, but what I would say, as we end this, the communal spirit of sharing art, be it visual art, or a cocktail, or a chef, or any chef, when someone's cooking for you, they're displaying their artistry. I pray that we can get back to that day of sitting and communing and sharing. And, it's my ancestral history. To be with my family, to be with my friends, to open our home up for people to come in. Those are the things that are sustaining for me. And I am thankful for Zoom and WebEx so that I can physically see people, but I miss the touch. I miss the smells. I miss watching your face when you taste something. You're like, wow, this is, really good. Or, whoo, it's a bit too much for me. Whatever that is, that language, the language of love, I guess, if I had to frame it. So I pray for that day when we can come back to that point, to share. And Zami Nobla has definitely been a vehicle that has allowed Twisted Soul to show off their art form. And you guys have been so receiving of us. And you've helped us grow, in our infancy and making, mistakes and pulling my coattail. I don't take those things for granted. That's just made us a better business. And so we appreciate Zami Nobla in the many, many ways that you educate me.
Well, my friend, here is a toast to you and Chef Deborah and Twisted Soul and all the wonderful ways you have blessed our world with your artistry. We wish you the best during these uncertain times and look forward to that time as well when we can gather together flesh to flesh and enjoy food and friendship. Thank you for being part of our Black lesbian herstory.
Thank you.
Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, baby. And I am talking about that martini shaker.
Nice.
Thank you, Lorraine Lane, for such a great conversation. I was really struck by how the things we find under our grandmother and great-grandmother's sinks and in their quilting boxes and in their creative spaces can really inspire us to do the work we do in the world. It's a call for me to go back and look at what my foremothers have left me the ancestral legacy, the gifts that I call upon and you call upon to do the work we do in the world today. Well, if you enjoyed this interview and the podcast as a whole, I ask that you would leave a comment, give us some feedback wherever you listen to the podcast, and let your voice be known. If you have an idea you'd like us to explore with you, hit me up, send me an email, and I'll be more than glad to be in conversation with you. podcast@jaminobla.org. Thanks for keeping your ear to the ground. We have 2 more interviews coming up from artists from our Cocktails, Tea, and Art virtual showcase. So be on the lookout for those this week. And as always, thank you for listening, and have a sweet one.